Hey everyone, here I am at 497 Paramatta Rd, Leichhardt, Articulate Project Space. Just wanted to give you a look. Oh, a bit quieter in here now that the traffic's outside. Just wanted to give you guys a look at my first solo show, Banksia Ritual, by myself, the artist, J.B.G. Smith. I'll take you on through. We're in the back room. Okay, here we are everyone. This is the back room of Articulate Project Space. I've set it up here. You've got your room sheets, complimentary postcards, and there's the show poster I did, Banksia Ritual. I'm just going to take you through a bit of a casual walk around the space. Some people I know wanted to make it to this exhibition but couldn't. So here's an impromptu artist talk slash just general run around of each work here. I'll start you off with this work as you enter the room called Altar Wear. Bit of tongue-in-cheek reference to what clergy member, priest, so on would use at the altar, but this one is spelled with an E instead of A, so A-L-T-E-R, wear, so a change on that. And I guess the story to this whole show begins with this little guy here. These are wooden pieces to a puzzle, like a brain teaser puzzle that fits together in one way. And for those of you that are into mind teaser puzzles, this isn't the solution. This is just a really satisfying sort of arrangement that I came to, and well, the real solution you don't have to tie together, but for my purposes I did. This is my little stand-in, a little pseudo Banksia form. Anyone that knows me, I'm obsessed with Banksias in my work, Banksia pods. So that little guy gets pride of place right here as you walk in. And next to it, we have the rest of Altar Wear. So on the opposite end of that shelf, we have these repeated forms, just like its friend. This wooden puzzle piece, which I then cast in plaster of Paris. I originally tied it together to keep it that way because, as I said before, it doesn't really stick together on its own in the improper solution, but I actually really liked the effect of tying it together with raffia, so I repeated that as well. So we've got the 1, 2, 3, 6 Banksias there, some quick maths for you. And in this piece of bamboo that I hung, bamboo being a very important building material and cultural material in the Philippines, where my mother hails from and I draw heritage and culture from. That's hung there, and that also holds a whole lot of plaster forms there of little Banksia pods. We have some makeshift gum nuts here in this, can't take credit for this, I guess it held a candle, or maybe it was some sort of light fitting. It's a found object. I found it on one of my op shopping runs. I can't actually remember if it was in the same op shop as this little guy, but here it holds some gum nut forms, and here are some other makeshift Banksia pods here, black with brushed gold acrylic. And then I've got the traditional Filipino fan there if it's hot. Obviously here it's wrapped up in some lace to give it that liturgical sort of reference there, this being a ritual after all. And this here is all over altar wear, as I said. It's a sort of range of implements that might be used in the Banksia Ritual, whatever that might be. The first thing you'll probably see, because this wall's actually behind you when you walk in, is this here, this work consisting of gum nut and Banksia forms. So gum nut, Banksia, Banksia. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, you're getting a focus shot of my finger there and not the work. Different Banksia and gum nut forms here. Now these aren't plaster of Paris. I'm not made of plaster of Paris money. These are paper mache with some expanding foam filling, and they're coated in or dripped on with shellac. And we've got some hemp or jute lace down here. Lace is a recurring theme in this work, as obviously gum nuts and Banksia forms are as well. The story behind this piece, which is called Gum Nut and Banksia Icons, well, the name sort of says it all, doesn't it? It sort of is what it is on the tin. These are Banksias and gum nuts that have risen to the task of being icons, as you would find in a place of worship like the churches that I grew up in, where you'd have saints or sacred figures, important figures, white stone lining the walls of the place, whether it be the church or temple. And here I've taken the humble gum nut, which I often come across on my car windscreen, and the Banksia, which you find all around the place in Western Sydney, where I'm lucky enough to come from. These guys have been promoted to the stature of icon. So we move around and along this wall here, come across my work called Dwelling. Okay, dwelling is in pondering or thinking or considering about something, and you might be able to tell I also mean it in the way of a home or a house there, with that stereotypical house shape in the middle there. Also a found object. I actually found another version of this, which I'll get to in a sec. But inside, as you can see, stacked up are more plaster cast Banksia forms, and I've woven in and out here of the black grid, some seagrass to sort of access that idea of traditional Filipino handicraft, the weaving there, which they've used for centuries, pre-colonial and post-colonial, all the way up to today. And on the side here is another lucky op shop find, these grids with circular perforations here, aluminium, which I've put around an impromptu pine frame. These were, I think, some sort of shelf in their former life, some sort of floating shelf maybe, came with the hardware. But if you look inside, I've actually put in some hand-cut card with a gold layer underneath there. And these forms, if you look into the holes there and sort of have a sticky beak, these designs in both derive from rubbings that I did of actual Banksia pods, and then I enlarged them and cut them out. But here you have sort of a trick of, I guess, what you see is not what you get. If you grew up in a Catholic household, which I did, you'd be aware of the tabernacle, which takes pride of place on top of the altar in the church, and usually it obscures or hides the Eucharist, the bread. Here it's open at all times, you can see, but the golden rubbings of the actual Banksia pod are hidden. You've got to work for that one. You've got to peek through. You've got to get up close. Off to the side here, off to the left, we've got this work called Reliquary, which is the earliest work out of all the works that I did here. This is actually one of the first pieces where I sort of thought, I'm going to give this visual arts thing a real go. If you've ever been in a Western Sydney backyard, an Australian backyard, a Western backyard, you might recognise the peg basket remnants here that I've cut. Secondhand, mind you, I didn't waste a new one. My pegs are safely sitting somewhere else. We got this bamboo here, and these 1, 2, 3, 4 pretty evocative figures, I think, or interesting figures anyway. And then we've got this embossed aluminium that I did of shapes, remnant of those that you'd find on eucalyptus bark, gum tree bark. Got repurposed wooden crate here, and then hanging below are 3 lengths of bamboo. Got a eucalyptus tree branch here bound in copper wire. And all of this is called reliquary, which, if you're not sure, is actually a container or an object that holds holy relics, so maybe even remains of saints or sacred objects. The sacred objects here being the bamboo, these four almost icon-like outlines here, and of course the gum tree branch. So that's reliquary. We come off again to the left. Larger work. I'll try and back it up here. It's a lovely space here, very the lovely Beata Gaia described it as chapel-like. Let's see if I can sort of zoom out for you here. Oh, there we go. I agree, quite chapel-like. Oh, actually back here you get a good look at the whole work there. That is my piece. 10 Banksia, 10 Carabao. Let's get a bit closer for you. Much wider work, takes up a whole wall, just like Banksia and gum nut icons on this side. Actually named after, well, the 10 objects that ascend and descend along the wall. The object in the center there, which is a found light fitting, doesn't count the numbers unfortunately, but it's given pride of place in the center there on its own shelf. This work is made up of these parts. I'm not exactly sure what the original product is described as. Some sort of shelf system. They all fit together. I'm not sure what it looks like, but I found those in an op shop up at Paramatta Rd once, coming back from the Irish pub on Norton Street there on the corner. But as you can see, I've woven some raffia through that motif of lace and woven textiles, I guess, fabric through the gaps, both representing the liturgical lace, but also Filipino handicraft, of which I'm very much an amateur, very uneducated on the art form. But you'll notice that these last two here, no Banksia form, no halo, no weaving. There's a narrative here, and it's actually found in the name. It's after an important story in some Eastern religions or Eastern philosophy, either in Chinese Chan or Japanese Zen. There may be other traditions that I'm unaware of, but the story is called The 10 Bulls, or it's referred to as the 10 Bulls or the 10 Ox. Here I've replaced that ox and that bull with a carabao, which is a Filipino beast of burden. And of course I've made some Banksia forms here, which I also cut in plaster of Paris. But the idea of the 10 bulls is that it's 10 pictures, 10 woodcut block print images depicting a layman or an early follower of Chan or Zen pursuing a bull in the forest, or the forest, I assume, nearby their village. And they leave behind civilization and they find the bull, the elusive bull. And once they find the bull, they confront the bull, and then they tame the bull, and then they return riding the bull, having tamed it, back into civilization, back into the village. But then we find that the bull disappears, so does the layman, so does the early pilgrim there. And the last image is blank. Just like I've tried to mirror here, we have that, I guess, degradation, or that continuation of the narrative to this emptiness. But it's not supposed to, I feel, or to my understanding, represent an emptiness. It's an exploration of, I guess, transcendence of the fact, I guess, that the bull wasn't the point of the story. As we move again to the left here, we have my work, and you might notice that at the top here is the matching part there to my work dwelling. The black house-like form, which I believe held candles at one stage in their life. But here, after its life in the op shop, which I found in the same op shop actually in Penrith months later from the first one. I've continued that motif of weaving, trying to give that illusion or that idea of traditional Filipino housing, while also, I guess, accessing that idea of the Catholic tabernacle, the Christian tabernacle, here instead of the Eucharist holding 5 Banksia forms cast in plaster of Paris. And carrying on with that theme, those wine connoisseurs amongst you, those sommeliers, will see a wine box, which I also found at an op shop on Paramatta Rd, I think the same day as these modular shelf parts. But here, of course, it's holding no wine. Instead, there's a void. There's a traditional Filipino fan wrapped around a void, if you will, wrapped around nothing. So here that wine is absent. So this piece is called Threshold. And this piece came not long after the first piece there with the matching parts dwelling to continue that theme. And that brings us to the center of the room. This is gum nut offering. We have some impromptu gum nut shapes here, which is, don't think this is customary to do in a gallery space, but that there, upturned pot, this sleek thing here, also an op shop find, a gum nut icon if I've ever seen one, a gum nut offering if ever I've seen one, an old light fitting in a wooden bowl. Another upturned pot there, gold this time, covered in lace. And these found baskets holding the offering of gum nuts, an offering being essential in any kind of ritual, okay? Again, accessing that Christian symbolism, which was part of my upbringing, being a person of Filipino heritage in Western Sydney. And of course, the singular Banksia pod form. These gum nuts cast in plaster of Paris, or these gum nut shapes. I don't know how convincing they are as real gum nuts. They're quite large and they're given a flat bottom to fit into those baskets comfortably. These were, of course, cast multiple times over many weeks to complete this work. And so this is gum nut offering central to the Banksia ritual. Some of the themes here, if I haven't already said, important themes of this show: identity, my own as a Filipino Australian, an Australian with Filipino heritage, my mother from the Visayas, a Cebuano, speaker of the Visayan language, and my father, a naturalised citizen who is from London, Essex, Dagenham specifically. This is me trying to create my own visual language for someone that's living between those cultures, or any culture really. I think that this discussion of who we are as Australians, who we are as Asian Australians, who we are as people from multiple influences, can identify with traditional symbolism, traditional icons, traditional visual languages that aren't necessarily of our own making, that might not speak to us directly, that might be from traditions that come from far away, or ones that continue to follow us. And this here, this Banksia ritual, is part of that process of becoming, that process of unraveling, that process of self-identifying as the person that I am today, with my multitude of influences, my multitude of beliefs, and who I am as an artist. Thank you for participating in the Banksia ritual. It's a bit hard to get your mouth around there sometimes. If you've got the time, this show's wrapping up actually. It's the 28th of June 2025 right now. This will be wrapping up tomorrow, Arvo, so I'm leaving this very, very late. But if you do have time to make your way down to the excellent gallery space, Articulate project space in Leichhardt, 497 Paramatta Rd, just along Paramatta Road. I recommend that you come visit and see some magnificent works. The people here are lovely, the work is amazing. The atmosphere is just right. Hope you enjoy. This is the artist Jamie Jude Smith. Thank you for watching.